Okay. Got a good crowd here? Yes. Participants are building. Very good. All righty. Well, we're on the down end side of this thing. After week 7, it starts to become anticlimactic. So we've had fall 3 days, so we're at week number 9. Okay. If you go over to module 10, or the week of 8, the week of week 9, which is the week of the 27th and 24th, we're working with these we have 2 bits of work for you to do. One is the management decision problem over on page 329, and the other is the interactive session number 6, which is over on pages 263 to 264. So let me pop into the book here, and you'll see I have quite a few resources for you there. And I want to go page 329. So pop up here. And that one. And if you've got your microphone on, please turn it off. I don't want to hear your Grateful Dead music or whatever might be happening in the background. Okie dokie. Here's page 329. And I've got these management decision problems, and we've got a couple of them. And I think, well, I give you your choice in terms of working with them. And I think, if I'm not mistaken, I said if you wanted to, you could do 8, 10 as well. 8. No. I didn't say to do 8 and 10. So 8, 10. We kind of looked at that anyway when we did a little bit of risk assessment last time. And I think I'd had the risk assessment files over there, so we kind of covered that. But for all intents and purposes, let me go over here, and got a couple of hands-on projects. One is this gaming company, and they're going to get a platform that's going to take them into one of these MMOGs, which is a massively multiplayer online games. I'm not a gamer, so I kind of get, but 30 million users is a lot of people. And so what they ask you is, to put together, this down, is to put together a security analysis for that, types of threats to be anticipated, etc. And that makes a lot of sense. So I think you'll want to take a look at that, and that's one of the options. The second option, now, before I go any further, in terms of, you say, okay, well, what am I going to answer? Well, I think you have the questions right there. They want a security analysis, and they want the types of threats to anticipate, and the impact those could make. Okay, and steps to prevent the damage to its website and its continuing operations. Now, then the 9, they say, okay, and this is one of those that are tied to the MIS lab, but they want a survey of infrastructure, and they've got some bullet points there, the number of vulnerabilities. And if you have only one, the personnel issue, that's the second bullet point, and types of control problems. So I think probably what you'll find is the one that's going to be easier to deal with is going to be the one, well, the one you'll want to deal with is the 8.8. 8.9 is in that lab, the MIS lab, and I didn't add that to this course because it's about $250 a pop. I think you pay enough for textbooks as it is. The one type of remarks I wanted to kind of generate here. Let me see here for a moment. Hang on a minute.
Let me get on my basic thoughts on Well, they're both pretty good. I'm a chicken person, so this is great. Thank you for pretty good. But I'm
We're
going
in a conversation, aren't we?
it just seems more flavorful. Whereas the blue guy, yeah, both are tolerable. Oh yeah, absolutely. I also love chicken. One bite of that. But the little back that the skin flavor.
Okay. Can everybody, I guess you could still hear me. Hopefully they can out there. I got them muted. But I think if, as you go back here in this chapter, you're going to find some ways to respond to this question about this Reload Games, this gaming company. And I think I've probably, I might have shared I might have shared some of the information with you about this, or maybe talked about this. We have kind of a little situation here at the school. We've been trying to figure out who keeps pinging our site. Now, what we have going on is a situation where we have someone who is trying to use what they call a brute force technique to get into our systems. And the way that people will do that is they'll get part of a password and then a user ID and a password. They'll get one of the two of those. And then if they can ascertain in any way the number of characters or places or bits within that ID or the user ID or the password, the brute force is it's just a program that runs just stuff at random. Now, for example, if you had a user ID, which might be your email, and then maybe you have a password that's your birthday in day, month, year, or the year for spaces. A brute force is just going to come in and they'll just run those combinations because they know since they're dealing with everything is a 0 or a 9, it just becomes a matter of running that program enough times to hit the right combination and they're in. So that's one of the probably the most prevalent threat that's out there is that. And interestingly enough, I think our phishing emails. Those are just amazing that people fall for that stuff. So that's what you've got going on there as far as the management decision problems. Then also I have an interactive session for you that I'd like you to do. And let me go back to the book. And that is going to be over on page 263. Let's go over there for a second. Okay. And what did I direct you to do? Either one. Session number 6. Okay. Let's get that. Now, it's page 228 actually. Well, I've got 263. Let's go over there. Okay, I'm sorry. 263. This involves the issue of net neutrality, and I think it's a good case for you to sink your teeth into in terms of understanding how it's going to affect you as a consumer, much less how it's going to affect companies. What we're about to do right now is turn the internet into a toll road as opposed to just an interstate like it's supposed, like people envisioned it being. If you get on the Turner Turnpike or you get on the Bailey Turnpike, you pay a fee and you roll, okay? And the roads are kept up a little bit nicer, et cetera, because people are paying fees. Net neutrality, when it's gone, means that end users will be able to purchase bandwidth at specific times on an auction basis. So if a big company says, well, I want to buy a whole bunch of bandwidth at 8 o'clock at night and they're able to do that, they control the bandwidth. So you and I are kind of squeezed out. We get slow service, maybe no service, maybe some denials of service. And this is what's happening right now, is a debate over this and this question of net neutrality. And it's important for you as a consumer, because it means you may see, you probably will see your phone bill go up. If you want to, like if you have an unlimited data plan, you'll probably have to pay a lot more for that if you want to have unlimited data, meaning you've got access and speed all at the same time. And that'll vary by local conditions. Now, this is going to affect a lot of smaller businesses or startup companies that need big swaths of bandwidth. And what the law has, what things have been currently is that it's been on a first come, first served basis. And if one party gets slowed down, or then everybody does. And that's been to keep people from hogging bandwidth. Now, I can tell you, when I'm teaching here at night, I know everybody on campus is either streaming movies, playing games, or doing something. Maybe they're working, because the bandwidth is just, it drops. Now, right now, I'm tethered on the Ethernet. I'm right in the Ethernet, and that is the walls in the line, which are directly into the server. I'm not using. Where is our? Do we have? Yeah, there is. There's our wireless. Now our remote. So for all intents and purposes, I'm not even taking anything off of that. I don't need to, because I'm right in here in the Ethernet. But like I said, I've been here at night, and this can be as slow as anything you could possibly want to deal with, because just simply there's so many people using the bandwidth. Now, the problem we have in this country, and we've talked about this before, is we layer stuff upon layer. And with trying to expand our networks, what's happening now is we build more and more towers. And so when Verizon says, we've got the highest amount of coverage, or someone else says that, what they're really saying is we're building a whole lot more towers, which is wonderful. But if you don't have the trunk lines to support it, or you don't have the server capacity to handle everything, or the server farms, all you're going to do is just take the pain and spread it out a little bit thinner. So instead of getting your hand hammered twice, you get hammered once. That's about the only analogy. Now, it's important to you as business people for a very simple reason. If you can't get the bandwidth you need to do the work you need to do, you're in real trouble. And that is everything from streaming meetings to accessing your data pool to doing, just all the employees are working at the same time of the day, and they're on email and this and that. So this is something that's very important as it unfolds. And a lot of this is, if you take a look here in the second side here of this. Let me go here for just a second. We'll do a little bit this jewel. Okay. This section, you're going to see that they start to talk the authors begin to speak about the different companies who are involved and the different types of business models are operating, and or the technology. YouTube and Skype are at each other's throats for bandwidth, because Skype uses visual and audio data. YouTube obviously does that. And so both of them kind of jockey around when there's high demand for things, or in high demand periods. This is not too different than what we've had in the United States before, in terms of the railroads. When the country was developed, and again, this is looking at the internet as a utility, you almost have to. When we were building the railroads to come out west, the question was okay, who gets to buy the right of ways in the best places? Now, if you ever go into Oklahoma City, and you're going to notice something, and that is Oklahoma City has a railroad terminus that runs through it, okay? And Oklahoma City became the capital of Oklahoma, and in the middle of the night, the governor, first governor, and the legislators and his cabinet moved from Guthrie, which was our first capital, Oklahoma City. A lot of people don't know this, it's an odd thing, but they did that because the railroad was coming through Oklahoma City. And the railroad people said, you probably ought to have your capital here. That's because the capital would attract people and eventually a large city, the largest city in the state, which it did. Because the railroad wants people. They wanted people riding on it. They wanted people who had businesses, who had stuff to send west or send east, etc. So it's that same kind of battle we've gone through with roads in the United States. And the same kind of thing with electrical power. And here we have the internet is just yet another one of those utilities that we're having some issues with this. So now the chapter, and I want to go into now. As the authors explain here, they talk about the case that hit the Court of Appeals. I think this has gone up to the Supreme Court, and I believe they've ruled in favor of the businesses. So now the FCC, I think, is back trying to determine, how will they put into action the laws that have been created. But the United States has the slowest broadband in the world, the most unreliable in the world, and for the simple reason that we've just cobbled what we have on top of stuff already. Now, if you flip this back 100 years, we had the best telephone system in the world. Nobody had telephones, some in Europe, but not like we had in the United States. Today now, we're you go to Asia or anywhere like that, and particularly in Asia, Japan, China, you're going to have high speed internet access, simply because they don't have to build on any existing technologies. They are just starting really from scratch. And that's an important thing for you to understand, because we have a lot of catch up to do in this country if we're going to get as fast as them. And it does have a whole lot of matter. It does make a lot of difference. So this is a good discussion. Now, they're going to walk you through some questions, and those are over here on page 264. And so you say, okay, how should I organize my response? Well, here's what I want. You've got these 5 questions, okay? And they talk about, have you defined net neutrality? Who's opposed to, who's in favor? The impact on different user groups, individuals, businesses, etc. And they talk about the importance of the issue, the issue of net neutrality. And this is not the first time it's been visited. When the internet started getting popular, and that is when most of you or all of you were in diapers, and started getting some traction in the economy, and people had PCs and people started getting connected, etc. This issue came up. The question came up as more of an existential question, knowing that we were going to be facing the wall at some point as we added users. There are people out there who said, oh no, this will never catch on. It's a fad. Now there's people who probably walk around with a phone in their hand 24 hours a day. And we could just we kicked the can down the road and let it be. And just really didn't confront the issue. But it's always been there. So if you're in the dorm tonight, or if you're living in the dorm, I'll bet you there are times of day where stuff uploads and downloads much faster than it does in other times of the day. And it's the same thing out in my neighborhood, okay? It's the same thing everywhere, because until it's fully adopted, and that is people will have the right to bump you off of the net. Bump you off meaning you're not cut off, but you're way down on the priority list in terms of how the server is going to be handling things, or the signals will be distributed. You're going to see some differences. So this is a very important case study, And I really do want you to put some meat into it. Now, I want to also point out to you that there are a whole set of different sources here for you that you can use. And you say, is it okay if I go and look those up and take a look at them? Of course, I don't have any problem at all with that. Let me stop for a minute. Anybody have a question? I could try to answer for you. Yes? No? Okay. Well, I also wanted to try to give you some things to look at for this week that I thought might be of some use to you in understanding this thing called enterprise resource. And I've got a couple of these ERP software and customer relationship management software. These are from PC Magazine. I don't think they've come out with those for 2017, but I would encourage you to please go there and take a look at them, because you'll get a sense when we talk about enterprise systems, okay, versus just different applications, okay? And you can see, and if you look at these, what you're going to see is that they're very, very functional, and they're quite specific in what they do. Here's one that's kind of interesting: multi-currency. Can it handle multi-currency? So if you're a large company, all right, and you are and you're trying to put together your financials, and say you're a multinational firm, you're probably going to use this type of software simply because it's going to be able to take currencies and translate them for you on the spot. Now, the first sets of first set of these applications were some that would give you like a 2 to 3 day lag on trades, okay, on forex action. But now everybody wants it real time, so they have some examples for you to take a look at. Document management is another one of those. Expense reporting. You could see that these are enterprise because everybody in the company, okay, is going to be using these applications in one way or the other. So when I get folks that will say, well, why didn't you cover this particular software or that particular software? I think it's pretty easy to see, all right, that if I scroll up here, I've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. There's SAP, there's 7, there's 8, 9 different companies that produce these products, and some multiple versions of them as you get like through that for 2016 versus 2018, etc. Okay, so they try to give you some. PC Mag is a good place to go to try to look at stuff if you're thinking about making a purchase, to compare them. And again, this will just show you how many of these products are out here, and there's just such a proliferation of them. So what we try to do, and I try to do, is to at least show you a little bit of what to expect when you encounter one of these. Now, we can't go into all of them because it's just simply some of them. Some of them are just simply LIFO, FIFO. I mean, they're inventory systems. And you can take all the inventory transactions and convert them to one or the other. Okay? Now, tax people say, we'd like you to use the same one for the same tax year. So that's, some of that's already built in. And again, I also wanted to let you see a good place to go if you want to get an idea of what to buy. And these are ERP, Enterprise Resource Planning software, okay? Again, you can see. Now, as you see, everybody has a baby version or a try it before you buy it version, with the exception of SAP. And they do not provide one of those for people. And they just feel like they don't have to, and they probably don't, because they're, in terms of the market, they have the largest market share. So I wanted to let you see that, and maybe do a little thinking about it, and see that a key piece of this is not just understanding computing or that type of thing, but a key piece of this really does have to do with purchasing. And back in the chapter, when we're here in the text when we talk about the total cost of ownership. Again, that's one of those criteria that you're going to have. Now, this is the best customer relationship management software. If you're a marketing major, you're definitely going to be taking a look at this. And if you get a chance and you've got some that you can see and what it's going to do for you, then again, this is something you would want to take a look at. Now, again, they function. Their intention is obviously to maintain what we call customer intimacy. And what we mean by that when we talk about that in this language is that you have an email connection with a customer, or maybe something on Twitter, or maybe something on Facebook, or maybe all of them, okay? Or maybe a text messaging type of situation where you learn about new products and they text you updates and things of that nature. It just depends on the particular company and the market that they're trying to serve. But for all intents and purposes, you'll want to take a look at these, and they all have their own little niche that they try to fulfill. There's nothing really that people have added that they've created that is just an all workable kind of thing. And you even see the BISS over here, that tool. Okay, and you can see one of the keys here, for example, the role-based user access. Okay. And those of you who are marketing majors, you'll want to take a look at each of these in this matrix of what they're trying to provide. And here, for example, like multi-currency support, again, if you're a global travel agency and you've got people, Globus is one of the larger travel agencies out there, and they have people dealing with them in all types of currencies. So you've got to be able to do that and get it accurately so that you don't cheat them or they don't cheat you. Workflow automation. It works with, here's one that works with email providers. Again, when we talk about enterprise resource ERP, or we talk about customer relationship management, we're really looking at a whole series of choices that we have, and that's going to depend on what your particular needs are. And you can see those are the different different vendors that provide it, and that have allowed PC Magazine to go in and evaluate them. And so they give them some it gives them some stars and some here's what's good about this, what's good about that, and again, these are all enterprise level applications, and meaning they work for the business as a whole. And so you have to do some hard thinking about what is it that everybody's doing and everybody needs to have or be able to do or be able to see. And that's really that's a big challenge for them, because you're just simply looking at a situation where you've got to make some choices about what you're going to do with your dollars. Now, this is again from 2017, and I'll probably update this later in the year. This is their inventory management software. Okay, so if you're wanting to, if you've got any amount of inventory, you're going to be using some of this software. We've shown you some examples, like in business problem analysis, of doing a little inventory system. That was just to let you see what the basic types of elements you're going to have, like customer, the product number, maybe components, or number of that product that are used in a component, the cost, who your vendor is, how long it takes you to get it, order point, stuff like this. They have all of this down, and what we're going to see and will continue to see is things of this nature farmed out to companies who will say, well, you choose what you want to use and we'll implement it for you. We'll use it for you so you don't have to hire people, train people. to use the stuff. And then when 5 years later, when you want to use something else, you've got to retrain everybody again. This brings us down to a point I wanted to make, and we'll go over here for just a second. How many of you have ever heard of COASE law, C-O-A-S-E? COASE law. Never heard of it? Not coleslaw, but COASE law. Let's take a look at it for a second. Now, this is a pretty densely packed, worded article, okay? But what he basically says here, and I believe his first name is, I think it's Ronald Coase, yeah. What Coase is an economist, and here's what he says. When companies deal with friction, or what he calls friction, meaning costs slow things down because they take resources, okay? So he says the cost of paying for stuff, a company, it's kind of like you have friction on a machine. Machine has friction as it goes through the air. Well, what he says is that any time that a company, it costs them more to perform a process internally than it does to hire a vendor, they hire a vendor. So it's basically saying we hire someone who is a specialist in this to do the work for us. Human resources is a good example. A lot of companies, ADP is a gigantic company because a lot of people don't want to do their own payroll. So ADP does that for them. And we'll even do everything, we'll provide employees with tax returns, the whole bit. We use ADP here, and it's a fantastic service. Come tax time, you just plug in, you get your taxes, print them out, and you're good to go. The school doesn't have to mail a bunch of stuff out to people or any of that stuff. And you can see the hours the employee worked, their cumulative earnings, what they've earned this month. It's all of that stuff is there. And it's all loaded in by the software. And so ADP basically keeps us from having to pay 2 more people to sit over there in Fairmont Hall and figure out employee payroll. Okay, so that's one of those types of specialized software. Another is Banner, and all of you use Banner. Banner is a database system for educational institutions, and it's designed to be used for you as students. I guess maybe you can keep track of your bill. I know for sure you can use it to enroll yourselves, all right? And it's there for us as faculty to be able to go and do searches to recommend for people to enroll in, or somebody comes to my office and says I need a class in English, whatever, that type of thing. It also has some elements like a place where I could load a syllabus and a course schedule, so I could make it. Banner has some capabilities that we see over here in Canvas in terms of being able to learn like a learning management system. Okay, but Banner's never gone too much further than just kind of the meat and potatoes of keeping track of enrollments and that type of thing. So it serves a specialized purpose. Now, basically what we did is we eliminated when we purchased it. And I think when I got here, we'd had it maybe 3 or 4 years. But we used to have 4 people who worked full time keeping track of who's enrolled. Okay? Because, as well as I do, ad drop. Some of you have probably done ad drops. Did the ad drop. Now, do they charge you a fee for ad drop? They don't charge you for an ad drop. Probably because they've got Banner. When I was a student, if you did an ad drop, it was about $25 a pop because it was a nuisance. It was an aggravation because they had to go back in and take the index cards out, fill it out, and put in another one. I remember enrolling over here, and we all were over in the gym, and the way it worked was all of the faculty sat around in a circle, and they had a little guys like not a little sign in back of each of them that said here the courses that listed the courses they taught. So they had a big book, okay, and you came over and you signed in with your name and your ID. And yeah, I'm going to take MIS at 2 o'clock on Mondays with Dr. Harmon. Now, you had no idea if you were going to get into a lot of classes, because the big classes, once the sections were full, the sections were full. They didn't add any more sections because they didn't use additional personnel to do it. If you had, I remember if Civ, the one that was hard, the most difficult was New Testament. And we had a man named here, Dr. Wester, who taught New Testament. And he was teaching, I think, 12 sections a day almost. The freshman class, when I came in, was, I think you guys maybe in this era have had a larger freshman class, but our class was so large in terms of numbers that with the men, I think we had the largest number of men at that time. We had people sleeping in the basement of that time. It was known as Brotherhood, I guess. What's they call it now? The men's dorm over there. It's not Brotherhood dorm. It's what? AG dorm. Okay, but people sleeping in the bottom over there, and it was crowded. We had everybody. There were 3 to 4 people in every single room. Are the rooms over there any bigger? Have they made them into suites or anything like that? Or are they still just a kind of little cubicle cell? Still same thing? Okay, yeah. When I first came back, they hired me. I went over there and took a look at the red tile was in the stairwell. It was the same red tile that was there when I was a freshman. I thought, I don't believe this. But that's how it works. They have microwaves over there now, TVs, all that stuff. They didn't let us have TVs. We could have a radio. We're in a different world. But nonetheless, we use these software applications to farm things out. So you'll want to take a look at this in terms of what he talks about, this theorem in terms of externalities, or this way of farming out or shifting the burden of the costs to other people who can either pay it for it or will pay for it, or who can provide it to you at a cost cheaper to you than you could do it for you to do it for yourself. In other words, the classic make-buy problem. Do I make the system that I need, or do I buy the system that I think I need? And that piece is, that's what really earned him that Nobel Prize, because he was basically talking about how companies are getting more and more specialized, but how they're saying, okay, I'm going to use the services from a third party or a vendor, as opposed to trying to do it ourselves. One of the most interesting things I've ever seen up in Michigan and Ohio, particularly in those states, they have old factories. And when you go in there, you'll find that those factories used to make their own electricity. Up in New England, manufacturing facilities were located near rivers, so they could harness that water power to make electricity. So a manufacturing company would have its own little electric plant instead of being hooked into the city or an OG&E or something. Those folks just didn't even exist at that point in time. So I want you to take a look at that, because what we're going to see more and more, particularly with technology, is more of these types of outsourcing functions. And where a human being using one of these tools, for example, and this is the inventory management. One person using one of these tools like SAP can handle, maybe 2 can handle all of the needs for a company that has thousands of transactions every week, because the software will just track it. And I've mentioned it before, if you use Oracle's retail software, the retail software comes with about a 150-page guide on how to set up and how to use it. And I think it's for data warehousing. And again, this is just stuff that's happening out there as we get more and more, and the technology becomes more sophisticated, and at the same time, easier for you and I to use. We're not doing a whole lot of programming or that type of thing. So it's a good article there, and I would encourage you to take a look at it. And you can never get enough of Ronald Coase. Move into something that here that I think is quite important. And when you hear about mass customization, what does that phrase mean to you? Mass customization. What do you think it's saying? Mass customization. Okay, yes, exactly. People can get things customized to their needs, okay? Clothing, they can go on the internet, and there are sites that you can take pictures of yourself, and they'll get you beautifully tailored clothing. Now, it's expensive, but stuff that really fits you well, not store-bought stuff. Shoes. You want to see a customized product? I'll show you one. Now, this is a shoe. This is a K-Swiss. See the little air pockets? It's just like a mucking on air. Now, I designed this shoe. K-Swiss doesn't do this anymore, but I went over and I designed the color here, how the colors would be distributed along the shoe. I've got several pairs of these, different colors. So if you're obsessive like I am, that you wear a certain color each day or whatever, or you have colors for the week, right, and you have your stuff hung up in the closet, this is for you. They don't do this anymore, but I designed this, and yeah, you can see that's a pretty good size foot there, okay? So what they had a little thing that you put your foot down, and they had you put something white down, you took a picture of your foot, and they would, to get the width, the length, and then the height, okay, and then just basically they say, okay, those are the dimensions of your shoe. Would you like a tighter fit, more of a sport fit, or just more of kind of hang around fit? And I said hang around fit. And they sent the things to me in about 3 weeks, and they were done. So that's mass customization. You're going to see it more and more with larger consumer items, automobiles, things of that nature, and to a certain effect they do. How many of you have a car where you can get in and press a number and it has a setting for everything? Anybody? How about your parents? None of your parents have one of those. Okay. Well, newer vehicles, not even just the high end, now have a thing where you get into the car, you press 1, and that's your setting. And someone else gets in, they press 2. It's theirs. And so the seat moves, the mirrors adjust themselves, the outside mirrors do as well, the interior mirror, everything, the angle of the seat, etc., is all set up. Okay. Now that's a form of mass customization. Also, where if you go on some of these, I think it's SiriusXM has started a thing now where you can press a button. They're a radio system that's inside of vehicles. Anybody here have Sirius or know someone who does? Okay, it's satellite radio, and they have different channels. I thought some of you would. Howard Stern's on there, so I figured some of you probably were waiting for Howard, went bated breath for Howard Stern. I don't watch or listen to any of that. But okay, the whole idea is you press number 1 or whatever your ID is, and boom, it has all of your favorites set up in terms of what you want to hear. You do that if you have music now, and the music you download and you get a playlist, that's mass customization. And we're going to see more and more of this as we go along, as consumers come to understand that the technology out there is to do it. Now, I think we might have talked about 3D printers, and 3D printers are going to become as commonplace as a printer in your home. And 3D printers make objects, they make stuff, 3-dimensional. Okay, and there's, of course, you've seen the thing out probably or heard about the guy that designed guns. So you could order if you had if you had one of his heavy-duty industrial printers, 3D printer, you could get the plans. He'd send you the molding material, and you could make a plastic gun. And some people got kind of alarmed, and rightfully so. That's crazy. Now, this article talks about the 4 phases of mass customization, okay? And it's good for you to see this, because this kind of takes us out of this puts us more into the realm of what I would call the strategy part of MIS. And that is, how do we tailor the experience for someone in a way that will be helpful to them? Do you think the OBU does any mass customization or attempts it?
Yes.
How do we do that? What do you think? Class schedules is one. That's excellent answer. That's number one, giving you class schedules. Have you ever been in what they call a learning community? They tried this here a few years ago, long ago, and your answer was right on target. When you enrolled as a freshman, you were told what you took. They had a freshman table, and there was a lady who had said, and if you're a transfer student, you're dead last. So they do freshmen because we were the ones going into the big block courses, then the sophomores, then juniors, then seniors, and then transfer students. It wasn't like you just walked in off the street and said, hi, I'm transferring to OBU and I need to get hours, blah, blah, blah. There were days set up, and if you missed your day to enroll, you had to pay a penalty fee to have them go back and enroll you, because they'd already done all that paperwork and gotten that all done. By the time I got here, they had some very basic but primitive machines. The coursework is one way that we do that. What's another? Aside the coursework, do some mass customization. What do you think? We let you choose your courses. Is there anything else we let you choose? Where you live? Okay, that's one way, sure. Anything else in terms of our academic offerings? Majors, different majors, exactly, and different minors, or if you want to do double major. And I'm never ceased to amaze as I sit out there commencement, and I see, so-and-so who's getting their degree in, let's see, biblical literacy, anthropology, sociology, and accounting. I go, whoa, why did you not take at this university? Okay. And that's okay if a person has a path or they has some interest that they want to follow in, is fine. So majors and minors, dual majors, I don't think there's any limit to the number of minors you can take, except how many ever 128 is where all of you want to stop and where you're supposed to stop, but we occasionally have those people who go over. But yeah, that's another one. What's another way that we try to customize your experience? Any other ways? Anybody here in intramural? No. All of you athletes? Any athletes? Okay, we got some athletes. And if you do that, so none of us, other than our athletes here, do intramurals. Okay. Any other clubs that people are part of? Which is what? Okay. Yeah. We used to have the sport programs, and then we had men's football. Do they have ladies football here? Or like, what's the thing? Flag football. Do they have flag football for intramural? How about just regular football? Rugby. We used to have we'd have softball, nothing co-ed. Do they have any co-ed stuff here? They do. What do they have that's co-ed? Softball? Okay. All right. So we try to customize your experience by letting you get involved with something like that. What's another way we try to customize your experience? We let you deal with a variety of insane people. So you build your skills at dealing with difficult people. True? You won't hurt my feelings. You want it all. I'm tame compared to people I took. You wouldn't believe. I had one guy that was our stat prof. And if you didn't answer when he asked a question or you didn't give him the right answer, he threw chalk at you. And he'd bring about a dozen things of chalk and fling them at you. And he chain smoked like there would never be another cigarette produced again. But that was in the old days, where things are different now. But you went to class prepared. If he said, Mr. Harmon, tell me about the standard deviation. And Mr. Harmon didn't answer. I got chalk launched at me. This is when I was a graduate student and a doctoral student. But he was a fantastic statistician and helped me when I did my dissertation. So there was a good and a bad to him. So we get a variety of personalities. Anything else we do to customize your experience? Is there any place on campus that customizes your experience, lets you do that? Where? Exactly. Do you all have to eat the same thing every day? No. If you think you're miserable now, think back to a time when dinner was served between 4 and 6. I think it still is at 4 and 6. And you all had the same thing. If it was chicken and rice, it was chicken and rice. And the dessert was usually old stale cake. So we'd leave and go eat somewhere else and come back. But the food was what it was. Now you have the cafe. You have the Chick-fil-A over there, right? So they have is the cafeteria pretty good, or the cafe, or whatever you call it? Pretty good? What would make it better? Make sure you tell them, because they'll want to know if you haven't. The idea I'd go in and get a burger or pizza or Chinese, I thought, I've gone to heaven. I'm in nirvana. See how easy I have it? Yeah, a lot better. Do you guys get to dance now? They have dances on campus? Let's see. See, now I'm mowing up. That will definitely lead you down the path of sin. How do I know that? Well, because my preacher told me that every weekend, and so did my youth counselor and our youth pastor. I was shocked when I found we had a dance on campus. I thought I'd never live to see this. But we did it. Why? Because there were people on Student Government Association, maybe a lot of you, clamoring for a dance on campus. Congratulations. Has it made it more exciting to be here on a weekend? Or anytime? What do you do on the weekends here? Irrelevant homework programs. I know that. What else? Sleep. Y'all, is there a place that sells beer to under 21 people? You probably figured those all out, haven't you? You play games. What do you do? Just hang out. Do they have paintball or stuff like that? Or what about the Rock? Is that got any junk for you to do? None of that? I think OBU needs a paintball course. What do you think? Wouldn't that be fun? What they should do is they should buy all those houses down there. Work with me here. I can see it in my mind. Buy those houses down there and clear them all out. And they're semi-creepy, doing a little creepier, and have paintball warfare. Anybody done paintball? Is it fun? I think it is too. Yeah, we get whooped in the face with I've had that a few times. You kind of go, "Oh, that's a stinger." It's fun. Yeah. Well, did you go to? Did they have a facility, or what did you do? Okay. And there is a gun range in Shawnee. Have you seen the big billboard out on the highway? So, folks, we have a gun range. So if you want to learn how to handle a weapon, that's the place to go. Now, I decided about a year and a half ago, I would rearm my household. Okay, So I went to Walmart and I said, give me the cheapest thing you got. My wife is deathly afraid of guns, scares her to death. And I know one thing, never look down the barrel and squeeze a trigger. Okay. And number two, never give it to a 5-year-old and say, let Timmy see the gun and how it feels. If it's loaded, you definitely don't want to do that. But so I went and bought, what's the cheap little thing? The Glock, is that what they call it? It's just it's like it was plastic. Okay, so I take my gun down. I got my license, and I have to take training in this state because they just don't trust that all of us should carry a gun. They make us take. Anybody got a gun? Not with you, but have a license. Did you have to take the training the state makes you do? There's some kind of a training course where you fill out something. Yeah, but okay. Well, I go through all this junk, and if you've ever gone down in 40 West, there's a humongous gun place out there off of just past Mathis Brothers, off of 40, and I guess it would be not 77, but 44. And I walked out there. I had I'm going, okay. It's very, very light. Yeah, okay. And I walked in. Now, this is a little different than when I used to go to gun ranges when I was a younger person. I walk in, and here are these women who are toting weapons that weigh as much as them. And I remember seeing one little girl, she couldn't have been 80 pounds, and she was in the position with her 357 and filling that target full of holes. And I thought, thank you, Lord, I'm not dating at this time in history, because I would not have survived. But I was surprised by the number of women that were down there. It was like, I was like maybe 2 men, and the rest were all ladies. I mean, they weren't just, let me have a little tiny gun. These are, one, boom, boom, boom. One had a 45, and I've got this little cheap thing I got at Walmart, and I thought, well, this is shaming me out. I'll never go here again. And people with some beautiful, beautiful, and a couple of ladies who had some pearl handle revolvers. Oh, those are beautiful, beautiful things to look at. So you never know what's going to go on. But we try to customize your experience here in a lot of different ways, some good, some bad. What has been the most fun you've had at OBU other than leaving for the summer? Basketball game? Football game? Soccer match? Baseball? Chapel? Is chapel as exciting as it was for me? See, we try to customize your experience by having chapel speakers. Now, why? What type of speaker? What do we get there now? Now I heard somebody told me that Kanye was in here to speak at chapel. Is that true or a lie? It's a lie. Okay. But we did things to make things exciting. But we had some interesting times then. We had a guy come who was part of what at the time was the Black Panther movement. He was one of the members. He wasn't the founder, but he came down from Chicago and spoke at chapel. That was interesting. For many of us, we had maybe seen a dozen African Americans our entire life. Okay. And this guy's talking about how we'd been impressed. Of course, I didn't live in Chicago. I grew up in Del City, Oklahoma. Okay. And it was an eye-opener for all of us. And after that, after the chapel speaker did his or her thing, they'd come over to the GC and we'd have a talk-back session. And we had several people. Of course, you got to remember, this is the 70s. And it was a different era. We had people who had some controversial ideas. And it was a good experience for us. And we had some great chapel. We had some fantastic chapels. Let me think of some of the people that came. How many of you ever heard of Jim Croce? Anybody? Jim Croce, okay. His next to last concert was here at OBU. We had John Denver. Anybody ever heard of John Denver? Okay. We had a couple of rock groups that came in. It was an interesting experiment, and really the height of it was we showed over in the chapel, we showed the movie Woodstock that had just come out. So we purchased Woodstock, which had a lot of long-haired people belly aching about their country, playing rock music and getting stoned and laying out in the mud and going nutty. And that was our films. We had a series of films, and I was happy. And we had students who were hosts, and I got to be the host. So that was a highlight for me. That would be used to say, hey, here's Jimi Hendrix. Anybody know who Jimi Hendrix is? Mean guitar player. Had some good acts at that thing, but it was a real happening. 500,000 people in one place for a concert. It was about an era of about 4 years where they did gigantic concerts. It'd be 200,000-300,000 people at those things. Well, mass trying to use these different strategies, and they are indeed strategies of mass customization. And that's how we can take a lot of these components we've talked about and tie them together and try to offer the user a different experience. I can tell you one that's very fascinating to me before we go down and look at the quadrant. When we bought, now, you got to remember something. Do you have a bucket list? Any of y'all? Have you started your bucket list? How many of you have a bucket list? You got to start a bucket list. You know what a bucket list is, right? You got to start your bucket list, stuff you're going to do, stuff you're going to see. Okay? The vehicle that I purchased, which is on my bucket list, has places around the world where they'll train you how to use that vehicle in certain types of conditions. You can go, if you want to learn how to drive in snow and ice, you go to Iceland. And for $5,000 or $6,000, they'll fly you there, get you a vehicle exactly like yours, and you'll have about a 3-day deal where you learn how to drive in snow and ice and through water and all this junk. Then they have one for people that want to run the desert. Then they've got one for people who want to drive their vehicle around the forest. Okay? It's a way for them to customize the experience and squeeze a few more dollars out of you for what may be a terribly overpriced product. But again, a good example. And when my wife and I bought the vehicle, and you get all these, when you buy a vehicle, you'll get this package of stuff that's all the instructions and all this stuff. And they gave us a booklet that was the exact color, everything of interior of our vehicle. I was very impressed by that. And I looked at that and I said, okay. And I went back and talked to the salesman. And he said, yeah. And if you bought a different color, you give me one of those too. Now, what were they trying to do? They're trying to build brand loyalty. And I'll get things from social media all the time saying, how's the vehicle working? What are you doing with it? You have anything you want to upload? And there's some group sites where people will upload their exploits. There's about 6 people here in Oklahoma during the flooding and the really bad flooding stuff we had who were showing videos of themselves going through water. The top of the line of that vehicle, you can go into 5 feet of water and go right through it. It's 60 inches. That's pretty cool. Because the compartment seals itself out. It's just not like you see the people over there by the Capitol on Channel 9 fighting for their lives to get out. Several people uploaded their videos, and that was a way for them to customize their experience reporting about the product. Take a look at this quadrant for a moment. Again, this is from, I think, Chris, I believe he's the author of this, but he talks about the product, okay, and how we're going to try to change it or not to change it. You can see those quadrants, the fits there, or those 4 different approaches to customization and mass customization. Food companies have it down. Does anybody know what night it is that Sonic has free drinks? Was it free drinks or 2 for 1 or something? Can anybody tell me how many types of drinks you can make at Sonic? You have the world's greatest search engine in front of you. I should hear people tapping. Isn't this something you've thought about? Ask yourself how many drinks. Have you ever seen the Sonic commercials, the 2 guys? My favorite story has the mask and can't eat the food. That's pretty cool. Always wonders that. It's stupid. But Google should tell you how many drinks that you can make. You can customize your food. Now, one of my favorites is the premium burrito, okay, with a large fry, okay, because I'm customizing here, and a large caramel shake for breakfast. Everybody needs one of those. See, he's already walked out. He has the courage to say, I've had enough. The rest of you sit here. I'll probably give him extra points for having the courage to say, I can't take this anymore. But you should see how it feels from this end. But here we see it. This is an excellent article. It's got a lot of good thought for you because they talk about how to use these approaches in terms of customizing people's experience or customizing the product. And you'll see this more and more as you go out and you work and you try to meet customers' needs. People are getting used to this type of thing. And probably clothes, vehicles. Any of you heard of is it Car Nirvana? Is that what it's called? Let's open up a new tab, all right? And we're going to do just a quick exploration here. I think it's called Car Nirvana. Maybe I'm going to get there's the key. Yeah. Now, here's some people that have decided to enter the space of selling vehicles, and they're taking a very different approach. They have the vehicle advertised on the web. You can go in and look at the vehicle. You can buy the vehicle without stepping into the dealership. And on top of it, they will do what? Bring that sucker out to you. In some cities, they have a building that's built with elevators. And it's just like a vending machine. And if you purchase your car, you get a code, and you go punch in the code just like you do on a vending machine, and the car comes down and you drive away. These guys could really put a dent in a lot of dealerships. And if they ever get anything cooked up with automobile manufacturers, not just used cars, but manufacturer, that's going to be something else. It won't happen in my lifetime, but in yours, when you buy a vehicle, you'll go to some website and you'll have a virtual experience with it. You'll get to see what it feels like, how it rides. You won't go to the dealer. You won't have to. You'll have a simulated experience with the vehicle in a VR type of application, and you'll know, okay, I like how this feels, how it rides, how it fits, etc. These folks will bring the car right out to you. There's someone in the rental business that will do that. Anybody know who that is? Enterprise Rental. Are you guys all juniors or seniors? Huh? Juniors. Let me pass a piece of advice along to you if I haven't done it already. It bears repeating. If you don't have a job waiting on you when you leave, or if you don't have parents who own a business, and you're asking yourself, where am I going to work or what am I going to do? Let me suggest that you go by and you talk to the people at Enterprise Rental. Why? They hire more college graduates than any company in the world. Any company, at least in the United States. And when you have that corporate branding, okay, then when the employer looks at your resume, they're going to go, oh, you did an internship with with Enterprise, or you worked for a summer with Enterprise. Now, I've had 3 of my advisees who've gone to work for them. And one, it was a fantastic deal because he got a job with another large corporation because they said, well, you understand how we do business in large firms. So you're hired. I had another who has worked his way up to where he has his own store, and it's retail work. It's with the public. It's retail. It's hard work. But if you want that branding, try to get an internship or try to work for them in the summer, because it will pay big dividends for you. Let me give you a case in point. My wife, who has a wonderfully useful degree in art from Southwest Missouri Baptist. The money she's made with her art degree, I just can't keep it up. I have tax problems. I'm being facetious. But she took a course on Administrative Office 1, and she learned how to work in an office. And she got hired by FedEx, worked for them for 15 years, and every place we land, she gets, the people start contacting her because they know she's worked for a big company and did so successfully. And that branding is important because people will look at you differently in terms of your resume. It's branding. So if you haven't done that, or if you've done an internship with a company that's got a big name, that's a smart move. It's never ceased to amaze me. We'll move, and somebody's calling and going, is Julie there? I'll put her on the phone. And she goes, oh, okay, I'll think about it. And it's a job offer because FedEx is one of the largest, most successful companies in the world. How many of you have done an internship at a place like FedEx or any of those? How many of you have done an internship at all? Well, where did you do yours at? Okay, that's good. At the Baptist Foundation. You planning to go to work down there, or was it just, what did you do? Okay. Jan, where was yours at? Okay, that's a good company. Very good company, yeah. Was it a good experience? Good, yeah. So if you haven't done that, zero in on it. And I'll tell you just real quickly the story of one young man. How many of you are management majors? Have you taken the production course with Dr. Green yet? Okay. When I taught that course, I used to take everybody out to Eaton and Shawnee. And if you haven't been out there, just go out there. They're a subsidiary, and I think they make brake pads or components for automobile brakes. I had a young man, he was a management major, wasn't sure what he was going to do. And we had that course, and the HR lady was ecstatic because they're always looking for good people, especially those who have a college education. And he stayed behind to hear her spiel. And the next thing I know, he comes back to my office. He's grinning. He says, I've got a job for the summer. I've got a job for every summer. And J terms. I'm not going to have to owe any money. And that's great. And next thing I know, I see him. He says, they're going to give me a job when I go to work. I'm going to go to work for them when I finish school. Now, he started out doing traffic management, i.e. inventory. And he worked his way up. They paid his way through OU to get a master's. Now he's got hired by a firm over in Kansas City, Butler Manufacturing. He's probably knocking out low 6 figures. All because he just stopped over there and saw the place and talked to the people, and he got an offer. And I've said it many, many times before, logistics is one of those areas that would be great for you. Well, I'll tell you what, it's officially 3:15. And I've got to go out because they're going to deliver my Maserati out front. That's right. It's green with gold seats. And on the back, it's cursive. It says, God bless OBU. That's right. And my wheels, they have 66 studs because of why? There's 66 books in the Bible. And there's one for every book of the Bible. You don't believe me, do you? That's probably, you have good judgment there. Okay. God bless you, folks. Thank you much.